Asia, Africa, and now right here in the USA. Watch us via Roku on your smart TV. Download the Millennium TV app from the App Store to stream our shows anywhere, anytime. Millennium TV.
Good afternoon, world. This is your host, Jania Butler, and I'm joining you from New York City. This is your New American Perspective, Wednesday, October 2nd. Happy birthday, brother man, Jason Butler, Petty Chief Officer in the Navy. Birthday today. Celebrate a brother, will you, with me. Give or take, couple percentage points away from the next election and from our new president. So how are you all feeling? There is so much going on that I am a little nervous about how this is playing out, people, because as we look at what's going on, so we look at Israel just got bombed by Iran. Let's start there. 281 missiles Iran decides to send to Israel. Now, America jumps in and they're going to be busting down some of these missiles, but I don't know at 281. And if I'm correct, that 281, a missile on our side costs us about $5 million, maybe even more. But I know that at least costs $5 million per missile. Okay, so they just bombed. Iran just feels as though that on the year anniversary of the October 6th bombing of last year, that they needed to bomb Israel again and really came with it this time. So now what we're hearing is that Israel is no hold bars. They're saying this means war. All bets are off. We're not negotiating. I believe that they're about to annihilate someone or something. So this is not good with 30 days left into our presidency. If you know the history of things like this, they try to start wars so that same regime will stay in because people don't like to switch up during a war, right? They just want to keep the regime the same way. But I think that we need to change something up. Then our workers are striking at the ports. So what does that mean for all of us, people? So now the workers, they want a contract, okay? They're saying that the contract, we knew when the contract was up. We knew when this was going to happen. They have been threatening it for a while, correct? I think that we've been hearing about this for a while. So they've been threatening this for a while, but here we are now. And now they're saying, not saying, they're actually doing, they're on strike. So the port workers on strike is not good for any of us because what they're doing is that they're holding up the goods that we need across America. And then I got a little sideline piece going across my timeline today and saying that it's just not about the goods. It's about the sex trafficking that's going on too. Oh my God. Why isn't that part in the news if that's what's happening? So there is so much going on, people. And like I said, 30 days before the next election, we've got to figure something out, okay, about what we're going to do and how we feel about this and the way we're voting. Right now, Kamala, she's on the burn right now because everybody is yelling at her because of the hurricane relief. I think it's Hurricane Catherine. I'll look it up in a second. Don't quote me on her name this time. But the hurricane that just hit Florida very ravaged some areas and hit North Carolina. How ironic that this is a battleground state. Now they're saying that Madam Vice President doesn't have her her situation in order because she hasn't had the response. The response is not on point for North Carolina. And they're saying, oh, we're waiting to see. But you're sending bombs, you blocking bombs, you sending money, you sending all this to all these other places. But when it comes to right home, right here, we're waiting for FEMA to kick in. So we have to really think about this. Now, these workers on strike, let me go back. I'm sorry, I skipped that. These workers on strike, what's going to happen is our food is going to go up. So Biden didn't put together a plan to say, hold on, our American people don't need any more strife. He didn't put a plan together for that. He did not. What he said was, I'm going to stay out of it. Now, if you guys don't see that there's a real plan and there's something going on in place, so he's not going to stop the workers from striking. Now, gas, food, the inflation goes up more because it becomes in demand. People start fighting for resources. They start getting feared and start buying everything off the shelves more than they need. And it's less for somebody else that needs it. So we've got all this chaos going on in America, and we obviously need a new American perspective. But while your vice president was on the campaign trail, she's out on the campaign trail. She's behind in the grade. The polls are, I think, very even, and we need a couple points in our favor because we can't let this happen, people. Okay, Kamala Harris sat down with Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes of All the Smoke podcast. If you know, All the Smoke is two former NBA basketball players, Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes, that were kind of ousted. I don't want to say ousted from the NBA, but they were kind of, pushed out the NBA young. Stephen Jackson a little older, but they were, bad boys of the NBA. Let me say that. Okay, so they do this podcast. So Vice President Kamala Harris went on the podcast, and she talked about Stacey Johnson. Now, can you imagine who I'm talking about when I'm talking about Stacey Johnson? Is Stacey Johnson black or is she white? I just want to know what you would think when I say Stacey Johnson. So Vice President Harris went on the podcast and said that her best friend from kindergarten is still the same best friend that she has right now, Stacey Johnson. And she put on a black accent again, and she talked about how her and Stacey used to sneak out and take her dad Seville and go to the clubs. So she's obviously trying to relate with this group that she thinks, Stephen Jackson and Matt Barnes, the platform that they have. She's obviously trying to relate with the accent. She's got Stacey Johnson with the black last name. If you don't know, Johnson is the stereotypical black last name. So she's all up there. Stacey Johnson. Okay. Stacey Johnson. I'd like to meet Stacey Johnson. Can you produce Stacey Johnson and where Stacey Johnson grew up, how you guys became friends? Because you brought this up, Vice President Harris. You brought this up. And the problem that I have is that according to my record, she went to high school in Canada. So did Stacey live in Canada as well? And you didn't go to school in California when you were younger. You did when you were a youth, but then you moved to Canada. So did you and Stacey keep in contact once you moved from Oakland or the outskirts or the suburbs of Oakland, is what I'm hearing, to Canada, did you guys keep that? Or did Stacey come see you and say, do you remember me, girl? Remember we used to chill when we was 3 and 4 years old, kindergarten? Remember that? So I'd like to know a little bit more about Stacey, since you're offering Stacey and some pictures of y'all going to the club in the Seville, Vice President Harris, because I call cap on that. Okay? I call cap. And this is what's messing me up and making me mad about everything. It's not so much whether this woman is a black woman, an Asian woman, a white woman, or in between. You're a woman. You're a first-generation American. But you are impeding on the minds of my community in order for you to get a blind vote. Instead of you going to this community and really saying, this is what we need to do. This is how we need to do it. You pander and talk about my mom raised 2 black girls. But in the pictures, you got all the garb on from Indian culture. I don't know. It bothers me because that's the way that we have to do politics in this country. It bothers me. And maybe it's not just her. We heard Andrea Ocasio-Cortez talking to the black people and swinging her head and doing all her stuff. We heard her doing that too, and it must work because she's in office. Excuse me. The only one that I heard really keep it real was Congressman Adriano Espinola. And he was at a hip-hop event, and they was like, oh, you remember this back in the day? He said, I wasn't here. Kept it 100. He didn't go along with it and say, oh, yeah, I was hip-hopping and bebopping back in the day. I'm in these streets. He didn't jump out and say that. And all I'm asking you now is to be real. Our country has a real threat upon us in lying to the American people and trying to patronize and pander the American people is not how we're going to make it over to the promised land. And I have a problem with that. And let me say this, and then I'll leave Vice President Harris alone. You talk about cooking these collard greens. Here's what you got wrong about your story. Collard greens are Southern black dish, black American dish. And you're talking about how you put the collard greens in the tub and you start collard greening and washing the collard greens and put a little salt. And you got a nerve to be giving away somebody's grandmother's recipe. Jamaicans eat callaloo. So what I'm saying is your context is wrong. If you're trying to say that your father is a Jamaican American and that this is the principles and the values that you grew up on, then you would not be having Southern collard greens at a Jamaican residence, ma'am. And I'm done. Said my piece. Now, last night we had a debate between J.D. Vance and Coach Walsh. People, did you see it? Tell me about it. How you feel? So now, JD is young. I'll admit, I was a little upset that they didn't pick Byron Donaldson over JD. I was a little upset about that because I thought a strong team would be Trump and Byron Donaldson, this white man and this black man, that was my That was my dream, right? But they picked JD Vance, okay? And we're here. Now, JD then ran up on the vice president's plane. So I said, when he did that, I said, maybe JD is a little gangster. JD ran up on the tarmac outside when Vice President Harris' plane rolled up when she was going, I think, to the debate. He was outside early. Yo, I want to ask her some questions. I want to know why she's not talking about nothing. If I'll just come to her and I'll meet her at the end of the tarmac. So that's when I seen JD had a little gangster in him. I said, okay, let me give JD a chance. So I listened to him last night. JD was kind of smooth. You know, he's got his smooth debonair. He come from the Ivy League school. He top notch. Okay, JD. He's a young senator in Ohio. Now, we know that they got baffed with the fact that they were talking about the Haitians and eating the cats. And somebody had put that story out there, you know, knowing that they would pick it up and go with it. There's a large Haitian community out in Springfield, Ohio, and they were saying that they were getting reports that the people were eating the cats and the dogs and the pets, and it got up to President Trump. I don't know how, I don't know why, but he's trying to say that this is the migrant crisis that we have and we've inherited, right? So that's what his problem is with that, right? So JD Vance and Walz last night, it was scary. First, let me talk about Walz. Okay. I don't think that we can have this man as the vice president. I don't think he's ready. First of all, Minnesota. Okay, this is the place where George Floyd was killed and they had the uprising and, you know, everybody's talking about that he never stopped the uprising. He never tried to stop it. He let it go on because Black people have gone through enough. That's his stance, right? Okay, so do we want a vice president that comes from a mid-state, a state that's not a main state in the country, New York, Florida, you know, main places, California, that have lots of different people? Now, what they did with the abortion piece in Minnesota is that they actually they went back to Roe v. Wade in Minnesota. They changed the laws because each state has an opportunity to make their own laws. And so their law is they restored the Roe v. Wade rights. And so what President Trump was talking about was that you can get an abortion in the 8th and sometimes 9th month. And what Governor Walz was saying was that is reserved for the individual and the doctor if there's an emergency or somebody might die. And they brought up people who had died for not getting the care or traveling outside of another state to get the care that we need. So we're going to take a break. And when we come back here on Millennium News 24, we're going to talk about what we got up next. These next 30 days, what we got to do, what part we all play. Because we all play a part. Our vote counts. Register to vote now. I'm sure you could go on millenniumnews24.com and get a link to register to vote. Register to vote in your state now and make your vote count. Make your voice heard. We want to hear from you here at Millennium News 24. So chime in, you Facebook, Roku, Amazon, Fire, Apple TV, Sky Network, the Horizon Network. We're all over. All smart TVs. You can catch us, The New American Perspective, on Millennium News 24, your news for a better tomorrow. We're going to go to a break and we'll be right back. And we are back here on the New American Perspective. I'm your host, Jania Butler, and welcome to This Perspective News. And I'm glad you're joining us. I'm getting great reviews. Shout out to Rita Ree out there, my mother, who, if you say, she's sharp and she's fly, I get it from my mama. So shout out to Rita Ree out there. Now, I was just talking about J.D. Vance and Walz in the debate last night. Did you watch it? It was kind of boring. It wasn't like the, like the Harris-Trump debate. It was nothing of that sort. But it was very interesting because Walz, he just didn't. I was giving him a chance in my mind, right? And he said that he knew the school shooters and he helped down in Sandy Hook. Weird line. What do you mean you know the school shooters? And so he's this coach that used to be a teacher and that all the stuff. But then he messed up, right? So he had said, let me get the right words for this. He said he misspoke when he said that he was in the I don't know how to say it right. The Tiananmen Square protest in Hong Kong. And 10,000 people were killed during this time, June 4th, and they opened fire. So the students and protesters, they came out to protest what was going on in China, and they opened fire, and Coach Walz was there. Or he wasn't. He said that he misspoke on the day he said he was there. So he said, he just, if you looked at the thing, he's like, I just misspoke. That's my answer. Sometimes I get carried away and I get talking. How do you get carried away and tell a story like that? That you was there on the ground. Again, these are the people that we're looking for. These are the people that you're voting for, people. Okay, so again, my question is, do we want someone from Minnesota? What do we know about Minnesota? They got the highest taxes in the country. I think we're being duped. Okay, so you bring in a guy that has some weird relationship with China, right? He's got the highest taxes in the country. He lets the riots go on. So how do you do January 6th and not George Floyd? And because it was the White House and George Floyd was regular people. I don't know, right? I don't know how they're different when the protests were similar. So we got all of this stuff. So how do you feel about that? Now, J.D. Vance, what they asked him was they said, well, J.D., you didn't like the president before. How come you like him now? He said, well, look, I was wrong about the president. I thought that things should have been another way. I voted for him, but he said I was wrong. And now, and I kind of like their chemistry. I see where they picked him. I see where he helps Trump, where he's the young man when Trump is an older man. Bring this together, young ideas. I see it. I don't see the Harris-Walz connection. I don't see what we're talking about with the Dem mom and the football coach. We're talking about running America, people. And we've got to be serious about ourselves and about our votes. Okay, so he misspoke. I just want to make sure I'm covering everything today. Kamala, she went on with her black accent. We know she did that. Roe v. Wade. Okay, so back to other news where your boy Puffy is still in jail. He's preparing his third bail hearing. I don't think Puffy is having it. They're saying that he's sleeping on the floor in inhumane conditions. And 120 more accusers have come out and hit the airwaves to talk about what they went through with Puffy. 120 more people. And they said they had over 3,000 calls. So these people were vetted, the 120 from this one law agency. These people were vetted. And they're saying that they've been in the freak offs. They've been here, there, and everywhere with Puffy, and Puffy took advantage. Now, I can't imagine that there's this many people, but if they're charging him with the RICO, and they're charging him with the fact that he was the ringleader and facilitated all of this drug racketeering, sex trafficking, he facilitated all this, he's in trouble. And really what they're doing, though, again, still a distraction, what they're doing is ripping all of the money out of his pocket. So everything that this man worked for, regardless of his crimes, he worked hard to get everything that he got. And he should have abided by the laws, and we wouldn't be having this conversation. However, they are now targeting his bank and knows that they have $1 billion worth of court cases to try to get some money from this man who is open season. I don't like it. You know, I got my own thoughts and feelings on Puffy and how he treats women and things like that. But I don't like it because why in America does always a black man get to the top of the pinnacle? You wait till he gets all the way there and then just knock him down. Why? Why does this happen to us? Now, I feel like the authorities and the media should be held more accountable with this. Because if you would have stopped him a long time ago, he wouldn't be in this much trouble. These people wouldn't be tainted and hurt by Puffy. So how does that work? Who is really to blame? And shout out to Jaguar, right? Shout out to everybody who sounded the alarm on all of this because it was time. I'm going to be honest. This entertainment industry is something else, and it was being run by some demonic force. And I hope that this is the force, not necessarily Diddy, but the force that breaks it down so people can flourish again. So people can be creative. It's like the end of The Wizard of Oz. Remember, everybody was controlled? Remember that? At the end of The Wizard of Oz, everybody was controlled. And then when Dorothy flushed the water down on Eveline, and Eveline melted, and I'm talking about the Wiz, okay? I'm not talking about The Wizard of Oz. Let me get that right. It's a difference. So Eveline, she went down into her little toilet seat, and she melted, and then it rained down on everybody. Rain down on me, and then they came alive. They took off their costumes. They became alive. And so that's what I'm hoping for this industry going forward, that everybody can take off their costume, that everybody can take off their mask and stop fronting and be a real person again. Look somebody in the eye. Be true to yourself again. Whatever they have on you, they got it. Go ahead and fess up and just go with it at this point. Ain't nobody, we know, we already know. So just deal with it however you got to deal with it. But going forward, what we have to do is make sure that we're on point. Okay? So then Kim Porter's book. So that in your words, I think it was in her words, Kim Porter, a memoir from Kim Porter, which was Puffy's which was Puffy's baby's mom that had passed away, I think in 2018 or 2019, of pneumonia in Los Angeles County. And so there's all kinds of rumors swirling around her death. The coroner had died, a whole bunch of little things. But so a man put out a book, not the family. A man put out the book, and it was like the bestseller on Amazon, and everybody started reading on YouTube. I actually heard the book, and I felt like the book was a novel, if you will. You know, it was a good suspense thriller, right? I couldn't take so much into it. And I'll tell you the part where, spoiler alert, but I'll tell you the part where I just felt that it just didn't go. Excuse me. At the end of the book, at the end of as they were reading, I didn't see the physical book. But at the end, they had talked about, oh, she's writing, she's typing, and she's like, oh, I just sent out a message saying that he got me. I sent it to 25 people, and so they know his reign has to be stopped. And I'm feeling woozy right now. I called 911. They're on their way. Even if I have to die, he's going to get caught. So that's what I mean. It was a good suspense novel. And it was like, okay, I don't know about me feeling sick and me running to the computer and make sure that I get this out. I can see maybe he, you know, the couple texts and everything, a couple words, but you know, the whole, you know, weakness thing and hitting the keys at the same time. So there had to be some dramatization in it. And then you have Puffy. I mean, they had all kinds of stuff in there. And a lot of the stuff, again, if you were there, you know the storyline. You could be like, you know, the little encounters that we know from public record. I think probably one of her homegirls got with the writer and told part of Kim's story if there was a story already in, because again, there was so much, you know, looseness. Like, oh, she was like, oh, I was with this person and that person, and you know, this is how he liked it. And it was so nonchalant, you know, the person that she was writing in. So so the family calls it a fake. So let me go back to the news. The family called it a fake and said that this is not it. You know, Al B. Shore sent a cease and desist quick because there were some allegations about Al in there having promiscuous activity with folks, and Al said, no, that's not true. This is a fake. She would have never wrote it. And you know, Al B. Shore is going to know more than anybody. This is my girl Kim forever, my lady. Let's make that clear. Okay, and her name was Lady KP on her Instagram handle. Let's make that clear. So yeah, so Al B. Shore sent a cease and desist. The kids are asking that people stop doing this to their mother's legacy. I mean, could you just imagine what these little babies are going through at this point? Their father in jail. Last year, we're dancing around, we're having a ball, lifetime achievements. And I mean, you can't make this stuff up. Shout out to Carl Redding up in the sky there. He used to say, you can't make this stuff up, Jania. And no, you can't. Last year, lifetime achievement, key to the city, you know, 2020, he's talking about Jay-Z being a black billionaire and, you know, it's going up. 2024, you're in jail fighting for your life a month before the presidential election. And then what else came up was the fact that Diddy had put out the Black Party. And he did. He had put out the Black Party. He put some money behind it. He got some people. Now, I don't want to say this is after we tried to get the New American party in New York, and we tried to get Busta Rhymes and LL Cool J to run for governor. And then Diddy came with the Black Party, and you'll see a video online about all his tough talk about what we need to do in politics, and how he's jumping in and he ain't never been there. Well, I think this is part of his issues as well, because again, nobody wants people stepping out in atmospheres that they really don't understand. And that's what's happening with President Trump. Nobody wants President Trump looking at some stuff with normal eyes when you need political eyes to look at it. Or if you need political eyes to keep it the way they want to keep it. And that's what Puffy was doing. He was invading the territory. But again, he jumped out there. And if you got all this stuff, and I tell anybody that's doing any kind of anything, if you got all this stuff in your locker, if you got closet full of drama, I don't think that you should be ruffling everybody's feathers. 50 Cent went on to say that he too thinks that his DeLeon tequila, his tequila brand, and they're ripping him to shreds. The 120 new people, I don't know what they're going to do. I mean, we haven't seen during our lifetime them out everybody where the names and the things out. The other thing is LeBron might be on those tapes. LeBron James, America's king, might be on them tapes. They say, but see, all he did, ain't no party like a Diddy party. So they got LeBron on social media during quarantine when Diddy was calling everybody with his kids in the background. He was calling everybody and getting everybody to dance with them, on the screen and everything. And LeBron was on there talking about, ain't no party like a Diddy party. So what does that mean, LeBron? How far have you gone? And are you on the tapes? And so now they're saying that there's some tapes that are swarming around with somebody that's bigger than Diddy. Is that LeBron? I don't know. But what I'm saying is that this is a hell of a distraction. And so what I think these people want to do on this election, people, listen closely, because what I think is happening is they want the least amount of people to possibly vote because they can control that. Right? So what they don't ever want to see again is they never want to see an Obama-like surge that comes through. You can't control, you can't match. Right? Because when Obama ran, Black people came out the woodworks. You didn't even know that they could speak English. All of a sudden, they came out to woodworks, to the polls, to elect the first African-American president. Jumped out. We was with it. We down. People sometimes say that African-Americans, Black people, are not smart, but we are smart. I realize that we're being smart when we don't get involved in the election process. Let me tell you why. Because we don't know what's going on. So we rather ignore the process. I don't know what they doing over there. And they're not about to dupe me. They're not about to trick me. So I'm not about to play ball. But every once in a while, we start sticking our nose in because we do want to know. We do want to be educated on it. And the downfall of the Democratic Party is that they have not educated Black American voters on what the process is, how to get the best out of it. Instead, we see what's going on in our communities. And that's why what's going on in our communities, because we're not political. But almost under every Black community in America, there is some Black people running it. So if you're qualified to run it, why are you not teaching the people how to do right by it? That is my problem. There is no teaching. And so you rather us stay in ignorance and then turn around and talk to us through the ignorance, Stacey Johnson. That was the same as saying, you ain't black if you ain't voting for me. That's the same tactic, people. My mom was raising 2 little black girls. Is that right? Is that right? Okay. All I'm asking is let me get some fact checking. Let me get some proof. Did you go to school in Canada, miss? Tell me the truth. That's all I ask. The truth. And I think there's a group of people in America who want the truth, who want this American truth. People, can we do something? Can we make a truce with one another? Can we look at every color, every race, every person on this American soil, and can we make a truce that we want to live good? We're all here for the American dream. We want to chase the American dream, and whether you're black, white, Indian, Spanish, Guatemalan, whatever you are, come get a piece of this American dream. But let's not trick each other into it. Let's not trick each other out of opportunity. Let's not step on one another's head. There's people out here saying the black community don't deserve no reparations, but the black community built America. So if you gave reparations in any other way for the Holocaust, they got some reparation money. The Indians, they got some reparation money. So we can't get none though. When do we become a part of America? When do we get to say and be proud that we are American citizens? When do we get to participate in the process, and the process doesn't come shoot me at the door in my house? When are we going to be free enough to trust a black man to walk down the street without having to be stopped and frisked? When are we going to look within ourselves and say, our kids are the only real thing that we have to take care of? You take care of the kids, you take care of yourself. So America, I'm asking you in this 30 days up into this election to dig deep. Look within yourself. Is it that we want to pay more money for things, for solitude, the things that we hear coming from the media, even if they're lies, even if they're just to keep the people calm? Or do we want to be the America that we can be, where everybody is included, everybody's dream is counted? I want the latter. I want the new America. I want to be free. I want to see people free in America. I want to see people be able to make money in America. Right now, how are we going to do that? We're just watching the movie right now. Full court. Whole movie. This is what we're supposed to be doing? We're going to war. We got to sit back and wait. What happens with Puffy? What happens with this one? What happens with that one? And we need to be focused. But how can I be focused if the world is eating us apart? So I'm going to leave you with this today. Think about where you are geographically across this nation. Think about what part you play. You want to sit this one out? You can't. Everybody off the bench, everybody in the game. We have to be counted. We can't be shamed. We can't be pushed. And we are going to make the decision for the next 4, maybe 8 years of this country. We are going to make that decision. We, the people. So I respect you. I love you. Stay strong. Focus. Vote for the rest of us. I am a citizen. This is your host, Jania Butler, on the New American Perspective, and I'll see you next Wednesday at noon. They want me to sing.